Coming up on Arirang News, a ban is announced in the Seoul area starting this Wednesday on all gatherings of 5 or more people. It'll last through Christmas and New Year's to stop the spread of COVID-19. The South Korean government will resume a coupon program offering discounts at restaurants later this week, but this time it'll only be for food delivery, not sit-down meals. And COVID-19 has caused significant job losses among South Korea's foreign population, many of whom work in sectors highly sensitive to the pandemic's economic impact. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. Gatherings of 5 or more people will be banned in the greater Seoul area starting Wednesday through January 3rd, covering the Christmas holiday and New Year's to try and get COVID-19 under control again. The ban was announced Monday by the local governments of Seoul, Gyeonggi-do Province, and Incheon. The ban means no more than 4 people can gather, regardless of whether it's indoors or outdoors. This is, in fact, stricter than the ban that would have taken effect under South Korea's highest tier of social distancing, level 3, which would have banned gatherings of 10 or more people. In other news, North Korean state media are indicating that the regime is going to rebuild and redesign the tourist area at Mount Geumgang near North Korea's east coast. It's a place where South Korea has facilities for the tours that used to be given for South Koreans. So news that buildings could be torn down there would be an issue for Seoul. In response to the reports, South Korea has called on the North to return to talks. Kim Dami reports.
Visiting tourist sites at Mount Geumgang recently, North Korean Premier Kim Do-kun reportedly called for remodeling the area into a modern, all-inclusive international tourist and cultural area. He stressed the area will be recreated, quote, in the regime's own way. Under yearly and phased plans, the premier also discussed development projects for world-class hotels, golf courses, and ski resorts. This is in line with what the North had demanded from the South in late 2019 when it pressed the South remove its facilities at Mount Geumgang. Seoul requested face-to-face meetings with Pyongyang in a bid to solve the issue, but after insisting on discussions in writing, the regime eventually suspended the demand in late July because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Observers say these projects could be included in a new 5-year plan to be unveiled at the North's Workers' Party Congress next month. That's why watchers believe the regime is once again pushing Seoul to tear down the South Korean-built tour facilities in the area. Seoul's Unification Minister in response said the two Koreas share a consensus on the need to solve the Mount Geumgang issue and develop the area into an international tourist spot. It further voiced hope for meetings and consultations at an appropriate time and in consideration of various situations, including the COVID-19 crisis. Kim Dami, Arirang News.
South Korea's foreign ministry has named a new chief nuclear negotiator for talks related to North Korea and its nuclear weapons. Taking over will be President Moon's Secretary for Peace Planning, No Gyu-duk, a career diplomat who worked directly on the 6-party nuclear talks in 2006. As the special representative for Korean Peninsula peace and security affairs, No will be in charge of coordinating related policies and representing Seoul in relevant negotiations. He's taking over from Lee Do-hun, who has served the longest in the role at 3 years and 3 months. The South Korean government is going to resume its coupon program for restaurants to encourage consumer spending, but this time it'll only be for food delivery apps, not dining in. The coupon program has been suspended because of the 3rd wave of the virus, but officials say it'll start again around Christmas time once they've made the necessary preparations. Also, officials said there will be more coupons issued in the new year if the virus situation gets under control. These will be not just for food, but for sports, performances, and more, and they'll be given to some 23 million people. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Monday, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Jun-seok, Professor of Economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, thanks for making time today.
Happy to be here.
Well, stocks on Wall Street ended last week with a decline on all the main indices. It seems on uncertainty about a new stimulus bill. Now Congress has settled on a bill worth $900 billion. What's the story in the global markets?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, after hitting highs on Thursday, the major U.S. indices fell on Friday. We do expect to have it rise again on Monday because Congress did reach an agreement. As you mentioned, it's about 900 billion won. It's designed to tide things over until President-elect Biden becomes the president. But the factor that was holding off the agreement was actually very strange. One Republican senator demanded that the Fed do not continue the type of lending programs to local governments and firms that they had this year. And the reasoning was that democratic states, the states which are ruled by Democrat governors, are not controlling their budgets, which is, well, Republican states have just as many problems as Democratic states, so it's not exactly clear why the senator wanted that agreement. But apparently the agreement has been reached, and the agreement apparently involves $600 payment for households up to $600 and $300 unemployment benefits in addition to regular benefits, and aid to gig workers, freelancers as well. But we don't know exactly what that condition is for Fed lending. And if the Fed lending conditions are prohibitive, the harm might outdo the good, in which case the stock market may not come back as much as we expect it to. And then the wild card, again, is that the United Kingdom has announced that there's a new strain of more infectious coronavirus. So we'll have to see how that affects the market. In European markets, it didn't seem to have that much of an effect. Like the U.S., it did fall on Friday, but the continental stocks, the German, French markets did rise earlier parts of the week. The UK, United Kingdom stocks have been on a downward trend for the week, probably because there's more uncertainty about Brexit. There has been reports that because in the new year they would have to the UK imports and exports will have to have more paperwork and tariffs. Some of the infrastructure is not ready. And there has been some concerns whether the EU and UK will reach a Brexit agreement. Right now, I would say I'm more pessimistic than optimistic, even though there has been some rumors that some kind of a deal may be worked out, or at least some kind of extension may be worked out. In the Asian market, the Nikkei and Hang Seng in Hong Kong fell on Friday, and so far today, while Shanghai continues a somewhat contrary trend. Whenever other Asian markets go one way, Shanghai markets tend to go on the other. It went down on Friday, but it's up today, and the press is saying that this is probably due to the People's Bank of China holding their interest rate at a low level, one-year prime rate at 3.65%.
Well, Professor, today stocks in Korea started out with a significant decline but recovered this afternoon. Again, local retail investors buying, foreigners and institutions selling. What's happening in the local markets?
Okay, well, KOSPI is having a bit of a roller coaster ride. It's going up on one day and down on the other. It went up on Friday and it went up again today. But last week it was going up and down But whenever they went up, it hit historical records. So it hit historical record today as well at 2,778.65. It went up by 0.23%. It's almost like a groundhog trying to see whether the spring is here. It pokes out its head a little and then goes back. I think it signifies somewhat nervousness of the market. It wants to go higher, but it's concerned about the coronavirus as well as the stimulus and the how the tech markets are going to do, because tech companies, while they have been leading the market increase in the last few months, it hasn't been doing as well in the last few days because, if more people believe that coronavirus is going to be over, then tech stocks are not going to do as well as regular stocks. Kosdaq It's rising steadily since last week. It ended today at 953.58. It rose up by 0.67%. Individuals and foreigners bought, and institutions sold.
We got less than a minute left, Professor, but it's the start of a new week. What's on your radar in the days ahead?
Okay, well, there's not that many important numbers coming out this week and next week because of the Christmas holidays and the New Year's, but probably the most interesting report is going to be the KDI's report on how we spent the emergency relief payments for coronavirus. That'll have to form the basis of whatever type of aid that we'll have to give next year on how to deal with the coronavirus.
Got it. All right, Professor, thanks so much for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, COVID-19 has caused significant job losses among South Korea's foreign population, many of whom work in sectors highly sensitive to the pandemic's economic impact. Kim Seung-min has the details.
The COVID-19 pandemic has left its mark on foreign workers in South Korea. According to Statistics Korea on Monday, as of May this year, the employment rates for foreign residents and for naturalized Koreans both took a hit over the past year, falling to their lowest levels on record. As of May this year, 63.7% of foreigners were employed, a 1.6 percentage point drop on year. The proportion of working naturalized Koreans also dropped by 5.7 percentage points to almost 60%. The drop in employment can be attributed to COVID-19, as many foreign workers are employed in sectors that were hardest hit by the pandemic.
Manufacturing, restaurants and accommodation, and construction are the three sectors with the largest number of foreign workers. Employment dropped in the restaurant and accommodation sector due to the pandemic, and lockdowns had a negative impact on manufacturing, resulting in 15,000 foreign workers losing their jobs.
Foreign workers who are earning less than 1 million Korean won a month saw the biggest drop in employment, with their employment rate down 9.9% on year. However, despite such difficulties, around 81% of foreign residents said they are satisfied with their lives in South Korea, a slight upturn from 79% in 2018. There were some 1.3 million registered foreigners in the country in May, up 9,000 from May last year. This comes despite entry restrictions amid the COVID-19 pandemic and was largely pushed up by returning overseas Koreans. Kim Seung-min, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is going to introduce a bill in the National Assembly aimed at protecting people working in the gig economy using online platforms. Many of these workers face unstable and even abusive working conditions. The Labor Ministry said the bill will govern platforms like food delivery, ride-hailing, and housekeeping. According to the government, the average platform worker made about $2,160 a month and worked a little under 9 hours a day. There are nearly 1.8 million platform workers in South Korea, which is more than 7% of the whole working population. Also, the proposal would ensure that platforms give their workers occupational health insurance and unemployment insurance. South Korean football star Son Heung-min, playing in the English Premier League, is reported to have had an economic impact for South Korea worth around 2 trillion won, or about $1.8 billion US dollars. That estimate is in a new report from the Culture Ministry on the cumulative economic value generated by the 28-year-old Tottenham Hotspur striker in multiple aspects, including exports and advertisements. It says Son contributed the most in terms of inducing production and creating intangible values such as hope and inspiration for the South Korean people. The report says his economic effect is likely to grow along with his value as a football player. Seoul Children's Hospital has a YouTube channel showing musical performances by talented children and teenagers who have developmental disabilities. And now the hospital says the show has a host, the hospital's mascot called Cory. These kids are taking part in a program called Rainbow Musician, which since 2009 has given its members a chance to share with others through music. And now they're bringing comfort to people in the pandemic. It's about more than the music, though. The kids' parents are hosting the shows, telling their children's stories. Hospital staff also appear on the show to let people know how to care for the kids. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.